The crystalline walls of the Galactic Council chambers reflected light from 1,000 different angles, creating patterns that hurt human eyes if watched for too long. Day One kept his gaze steady and forward as he walked through the massive entrance hall. His gray suit was perfectly pressed, his tie straight, his shoes polished to a mirror shine. Everything about him said professional diplomat. Everything about him said harmless Dot. Behind him walked Ambassador Hai Jin and 3 other members of Earth's first official delegation to the Council. They had waited 2 years for this meeting. 2 years of applications, background checks, and what amounted to galactic paperwork. Humanity was finally being considered for membership in the community of spacefaring civilizations. The chamber itself was enormous. 47 different species had representatives here, seated in circular tiers that rose up like an ancient amphitheater. Some aliens were humanoid, walking on 2 legs with recognizable faces. Others were so strange that Day One had spent weeks studying just to understand their body language. There were floating gas clouds that communicated through color changes. There were crystalline beings that sang in frequencies humans could barely hear. There were massive insectoid creatures, with too many limbs to count. Dot, and all of them were staring at the humans with expressions that Day One recognized immediately: contempt, amusement, dismissal. Council Prime. Vexter sat at the center of the highest tier. He was reptilian, covered in dark green scales that gleamed under the chamber lights. His eyes were golden with vertical slits for pupils. When he spoke, his voice carried through the chamber without any visible technology to amplify it. So, the children of Earth finally arrive. Vexthera's tone made it clear this was not a compliment. Only 5,000 years behind the rest of civilized space. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not polite chuckles, but actual mocking laughter. Day One's expression did not change. He had been laughed at by warlords and terrorists, by criminals and fanatics. A room full of aliens did not impress him. "Thank you for receiving us, Council Prime," Day One said. His voice was calm and measured. "We understand we are newcomers to your community. We hope to learn from species with more experience than our own." More laughter. An insectoid creature in the 3rd tier chittered loudly. "Learn? You still fight wars on your own planet. You poison your own air and water. You have barely left your home system. What could you possibly offer this council?" The speaker was Kren of the Voss Collective. Day One had studied his file carefully. The Voss were conquerors who had subjugated 6 other species before being forced into the council. They respected only strength and viewed diplomacy as weakness. "We offer our perspective," Day One replied. "Our science, our culture, our friendship to those who would have it." Friendship. Kren laughed, a sound like grinding metal, from a species that cannot even unite its own world. "Tell me, human, how many of your kind died in wars last year alone?" Day One met Kren's multifaceted eyes without blinking. "Fewer than the year before, and fewer still than the year before that. We learn from our mistakes." "Too slowly," Vexter interrupted. He gestured with one clawed hand, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed human history, wars, weapons, destruction. "This council has reviewed your species extensively. You are violent, unstable, primitive." Ambassador Hai Jin stepped forward, ready to respond, but Day One raised one hand slightly. She stopped. This was his negotiation to handle. "We do not deny our history," Day One said. "Yes, we have fought wars. Yes, we have made weapons. But we have also created art and music. We have written poetry and philosophy. We have built cities and cured diseases. We are more than our worst moments." "Pretty words," said another council member, a serpentine creature that coiled around its seat. "But words are all your kind seems to have." You have no great technology. Your ships are crude. Your weapons are laughable. Your lifespan is barely a century. What use are you to the galactic community? The question hung in the air. This was the moment Day One had prepared for. The moment when Earth's future would be decided by his response. We are survivors, he said simply. Our planet tried to kill us at every turn. We had predators and diseases and disasters. We had ice ages and droughts and meteor strikes. And we survived all of it. We adapted. We overcame. That is what we offer. Council Prime, the perspective of a species that refuses to die. Silence fell over the chamber. For a moment, Day One thought he might have reached them. Then Vexter laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. Survivors. How inspiring. The sarcasm was thick enough to taste. Very well. The Council has made its decision. Humanity will be granted probationary status. You will have no voting rights. You will have no territorial claims beyond your home system. You will have no military vessels beyond your own solar space. And you will pay tribute to the 3 species whose territories border your own. That is unacceptable, Ambassador Hyjin said sharply. We are a sovereign species. We will not pay tribute to anyone. Then you will have no council status at all, Vexter replied. Those are the terms. Accept them or return to your little planet and stay there. Day One felt the eyes of his fellow humans on him. He could feel their anger, their frustration. They had come so far for this, but he had been in worse negotiations. He had sat across from men who held hostages and made demands. He had talked to people who wanted him dead. This was just another room full of threats. We request 48 hours to deliberate, Day One said calmly. This decision affects our entire species. We should not make it hastily. Vexter waved a dismissive hand. You have 24 hours. Return here tomorrow with your answer. If you refuse our terms, you will not be invited back. The meeting was clearly over. The humans turned and walked back down the long hall toward the exit. None of them spoke until they were in their assigned quarters. A small set of rooms in the station's diplomatic wing. That was humiliating, one of the junior diplomats said quietly. That was expected, Day One replied. He was loosening his tie, his first sign of any discomfort. They wanted to establish dominance. They wanted us to feel small and weak. Did it work? Ambassador Hyjin asked. She was studying him carefully. Day One looked at her and smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something others did not. I have been in worse rooms than that, he said. At least here they only use words. As he turned away, Hyjin saw something she had not noticed before. There was a scar on the side of his neck, thin and precise. The kind of scar left by a blade meant to kill. The diplomatic reception was mandatory for all species, with pending applications to the Council. It was held in a vast garden dome where plants from 100 worlds grew under carefully controlled atmospheric conditions. Water features trickled and gurgled. Strange flowers released perfumes that ranged from pleasant to nauseating. The ceiling showed a perfect simulation of a nebula, stars swirling in impossible colors. Day One attended alone. Ambassador Hyjin had offered to accompany him, but he declined. One human was less threatening than 2, less likely to provoke incidents. He wore another gray suit, this one with a blue tie that Hyjin said made him look approachable. He felt ridiculous, but diplomacy often required looking ridiculous. The other species mingled in groups, their translators creating a low hum of overlapping conversations. Some approached Day One with genuine curiosity. A crystalline being asked about human music and seemed fascinated by the concept of rhythm. A floating gas entity wanted to know about human poetry. These conversations were pleasant and gave Day One hope that not all of the council viewed humanity with contempt. But then there were the others. Kren arrived with an entourage of 5 other Voss warriors. They were massive creatures, each standing nearly 3 meters tall, their exoskeletons gleaming like polished obsidian. They moved through the crowd like ships cutting through water, other species stepping aside to let them pass. They stopped directly in front of Day One. "The human is alone," Kren said to his companions, speaking loudly enough that others nearby could hear. "How brave, or how foolish." Day One smiled politely. "I did not realize I needed protection at a diplomatic function." "Protection?" Kren leaned down, bringing his insectoid face close to Day One's. "From what? Harsh words? Hurt feelings? Your species is so fragile, so soft." One of the other Voss warriors laughed. The sound was like stones grinding together. "I heard humans break easily. Their bones snap like twigs. Their skin tears like paper. We are more resilient than we appear," Day One said. He kept his voice level and calm, every word measured, every gesture controlled. This was a test. They wanted him to react with anger or fear. He would give them neither. "Prove it," Kren said. He reached out with one-bladed appendage and knocked a datapad from Day One's hands. It clattered to the floor. Day One looked at the datapad and back at Kren. "Was that an accident?" "Pick it up." "I will. But first, I want to know if you struck it from my hands deliberately or by accident." Kren's mandibles clicked together in what might have been a smile. "What does it matter? If it was an accident, I will accept your apology and we can move past this. If it was deliberate, then we have a different situation." "Different how?" Another Voss warrior stepped closer. This one was even larger than Kren, covered in additional armor plating. His name was Tech, and according to the intelligence files, he was Kren's personal bodyguard and enforcer. Day One bent slowly and picked up his datapad. The screen was cracked. He held it up so Kren could see. This contained information about Earth's culture, art and history, things I was going to share with interested council members. Now it is damaged. "So fragile," Kren said mockingly. "Like your species." A crowd was beginning to gather. Other aliens watching the confrontation with interest. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked eager to see what would happen next. No one intervened. Day One set the broken datapad on a nearby table. "I think this conversation is over." He turned to walk away. Tech moved to block his path. The massive Voss warrior stood directly in front of Day One, close enough that Day One had to look up to meet his eyes. "We are not finished talking to you." "Human, I am finished talking to you," Day One replied. "Please step aside. Make me." Across the garden dome, Ji Wu was watching the confrontation with growing alarm. She was human security, former military intelligence, and she had been assigned to keep a discreet eye on Day One during the reception. Now she touched the communicator in her ear and spoke urgently. "This is Ji Wu. I need Ambassador Hai-Jin at the reception immediately. We have a situation developing." "What kind of situation?" Hai-Jin's voice crackled back. "The kind that is about to become a problem." Back in the garden, Day One was still standing in front of Tech. The Voss warrior had not moved. Kren and his other companions had formed a loose circle around Day One, cutting him off from easy escape. "Your species thinks it deserves respect," Kren said. "But respect must be earned. You have earned nothing." "Respect is often mutual," Day One replied. "I have shown you courtesy and professionalism. You have shown me neither, because you deserve neither." Kren reached out and deliberately spilled a glass of some viscous liquid onto Day One's shoulder. The substance hissed and steamed, eating through the fabric of his suit jacket. It was mildly corrosive, not enough to seriously injure, but enough to make a point. Day One looked down at his ruined jacket. Smoke was rising from the burnt fabric. He could feel the heat against his skin, but his expression remained completely neutral. "That was unfortunate," he said quietly. "Was it an accident?" Kren mocked, throwing Day One's earlier words back at him. "Or deliberate?" "I think we both know the answer to that." The crowd was larger now. At least 20 different species were watching. Some were recording the incident. Day One knew that whatever happened next would be seen across the entire galactic community. Earth's reputation hung in the balance. He could walk away. That was the diplomatic solution. Let them have their moment of dominance and report the incident through proper channels. It would take months to resolve, and probably result in nothing more than formal apologies. But humanity's status would be even lower than before, or he could stand his ground. Show them that humans did not accept disrespect quietly. Day One took a slow breath and went completely still. It was a stillness that Ji Woo recognized immediately. She began moving through the crowd, trying to reach him. "You have made your point," Day One said to Kren. His voice had not changed. It was still calm and measured. But something in his eyes was different. Something cold and distant. "I suggest you step back now." "Or what?" Kren leaned closer. "What will you do, little human? File a complaint? Write a strongly worded letter?" Tech placed one massive hand on Day One's chest and shoved him backwards. It was not hard enough to knock him down, but it was enough to make him stumble. Enough to demonstrate physical dominance. In Voss culture, this was normal. A way of establishing hierarchy without actual violence. But Day One did not stumble. He absorbed the shove, his body moving with it rather than against it. When he straightened, he was smiling. Not a polite diplomatic smile. Something else entirely. "That was a mistake," he said softly. "Was it?" Kren reached out with one bladed appendage and struck Day One across the face. Not hard enough to kill, but hard enough to cut. Blood ran down Day One's cheek from a gash that went from his eye to his jaw. The entire garden went silent. Day One touched his bleeding face with 2 fingers. He looked at the blood, dark red against his pale skin. Then he looked back at Kren. "By your laws," Day One said quietly, "you have just issued a formal challenge. Blood has been drawn. That means trial by combat. Traditional rules. No weapons, no armor, no outside interference." Kren's mandibles spread in, what was definitely a smile now. "You accept?" "I accept." Ji Woo finally pushed through the crowd and grabbed Day One's arm. "Sir, you need to think about this." Day One gently removed her hand from his arm. "I have thought about it. I accept his challenge. Do you even know what you are agreeing to?" Ji Woo hissed. "The Voss are twice your size. They have natural weapons and armor. You are going to get killed." Day One looked at her, and for just a moment, Ji Woo saw something in his eyes that made her blood run cold. It was the look of someone who had killed before, many times, and would do so again, if necessary. "Get Ambassador Hyjin," he said. "She needs to witness the formal declaration." Kren was laughing now, a grinding mechanical sound that echoed through the silent garden. "Tomorrow. The arena. We will see how tough humans really are." "Tomorrow," Day One agreed. He picked up a cloth napkin from a nearby table and pressed it against his bleeding face. "I look forward to it." Ambassador Hyjin found Day One in his quarters 3 hours after the incident. He was sitting at a desk, reading through files on a portable screen. The cut on his face had been sealed with medical adhesive, but would leave a scar to match the others he already carried. He looked up when she entered and smiled politely. "Ambassador, I was expecting you. Were you?" Hyjin closed the door behind her and activated a privacy field. Do you want to explain what happened tonight? I was provoked, and I accepted a challenge. It is all in the official report. That is not what I am asking, and you know it. Hai Jin moved closer, studying his face. They do not know what you are, do they? They think you are just a diplomat, just some bureaucrat who pushed papers and attended meetings. Da Wan set down his screen. I am a diplomat. I have been for 8 years now. And before that? Before that, I did other things. Winter, Hai Jin said quietly. That was your call sign, was it not? During the Unification Wars? Day One went very still. That name was classified. Only a handful of people knew it. That was a long time ago. Not long enough, apparently. Shi Jin sat down across from him. I know your file, Day One. The real file, not the sanitized version the Council was allowed to see. I know what you did. Who you were. That person is gone. Is he? Because tomorrow you are going to step into an arena with a Voss warrior who probably weighs twice what you do and has natural weapons that could cut through steel. And you smiled when you accepted. You actually smiled. Day One was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than before. I did not want this. I came here to talk, not to fight. But Kren gave me no choice. If I had backed down, humanity would have been seen as weak. The Council would have given us even worse terms. Or rejected us completely. So you decided to beat a Voss warrior in single combat. Do you have any idea how insane that sounds? I have fought worse odds. That is what worries me. Hai Jin pulled up a file on her own screen and turned it so Day One could see. Do you remember Medical Officer Jung? She treated you during the war. She still has her notes from your psychological evaluations. Day One glanced at the screen and then looked away. I remember. She wrote that you were the most efficient soldier she had ever seen. No hesitation. No doubt. You completed every mission exactly as ordered. 200 confirmed eliminations in close quarters combat. Hand to hand. No mistakes. No failures. Hai Jin paused. She also wrote that you scared her. That you were too good at killing. Too comfortable with it. Is there a point to this? The point is that you retired. You specifically requested reassignment to diplomatic services. You told everyone you were done with violence. That you wanted to build instead of destroy. Was that a lie? No. Day One met her eyes directly. I meant every word. I am tired of killing, Hai Jin. I have done enough of it for 3 lifetimes. I wanted to use words instead of weapons. I wanted to solve problems without violence. And yet, here you are, about to enter an arena, because sometimes words are not enough. Day One stood and walked to the window that looked out at the stars. The Council does not respect diplomacy from species they view as weak. They respect strength. I have to show them that humanity has strength, even if I wish I did not have to. Hai Jin joined him at the window. Can you win? Yes. You sound very certain. I am. Day One glanced at her. The Voss are strong, and they have natural weapons. But they have not fought a real war in 3 generations. Their combat challenges are ceremonial now. Ritual. They do not expect actual violence. And you do. I expect everything. Day One pulled up his own files on the screen. I have been studying Voss physiology since we arrived. Their exoskeletons are strong, but they have weak points at the joints. Their multiple limbs give them reach, but slow their reactions. Their eyes are compound, which means poor depth perception at close range. They are designed for open combat, not close quarters. And you are designed for close quarters. Humans are designed to survive. Day One brought up an image of Earth. Every predator on our planet tried to kill us. We had no claws or fangs or armor. We were not the strongest or the fastest, but we were smart and we were persistent. We learned to make weapons. We learned to work together. We learned to run our prey to exhaustion and then kill it when it could not run anymore. That is what humans are, Hai-Jin. We are pursuit predators. We do not give up. We do not stop. We just keep coming until our target is dead. The way he said it sent chills down Hai-Jin's spine. She had known Day One for 3 years and always thought of him as gentle, soft-spoken and thoughtful. But the man standing beside her now was someone different, someone cold and dangerous. "You are looking forward to this," she said quietly. "No," Day One shook his head. "But I am not afraid of it either. There is a difference." Meanwhile, in another section of the station, Kren was preparing for the upcoming combat. He was performing traditional Voss rituals, sharpening his natural blades and reinforcing his armor with ceremonial oils. His companions watched and offered encouragement. "The human is a fool," Tex said. "He should have yielded when you struck him." "His pride would not allow it," Kren replied. "Their entire species is driven by pride and emotion. It makes them weak. Tomorrow you will prove it. The whole galaxy will watch a human broken and bleeding in the arena. Their petition to the Council will be denied. They will return to their little planet and stay there." Kren smiled at the thought. "Yes, it will be over in moments. I will show mercy and not kill him. Simply break enough bones that he cannot continue. That is the civilized approach." But not everyone in the Council shared Kren's confidence. Counselor Thrin, the serpentine representative from a species known for their caution and careful planning, was in his own quarters reviewing data about humans. What he found disturbed him greatly. He requested an emergency meeting with Council Prime Vexter. "This is highly irregular," Vexter said when Thrin arrived. "The hour is late. This cannot wait." Thrin displayed holographic images in the air between them. "I have been researching the human species, their homeworld, their evolutionary history, and they are not what they appear to be." Thrin brought up images of Earth's predators, lions and tigers and bears, sharks and crocodiles. Every one of these creatures evolved to kill, and humans survived all of them. Not by being stronger, but by being smarter and more persistent. "Many species survive predators," Vexter said dismissively. "Not like this." Thrin showed videos of human hunters. Ancient humans with primitive weapons, tracking animals for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. "They are pursuit predators, Vexter. Do you understand what that means? They literally evolved to chase down and kill anything that ran from them. Their entire biology is designed for endurance and violence. One human diplomat is not a pursuit predator, is he not?" Thrin pulled up Day One's file, the sanitized version the Council had been given. "Look at this man. Does he seem afraid? Does he seem worried about fighting a Voss warrior? He seems foolish, or he seems confident." Thrin switched to images of human martial arts, disciplines developed over thousands of years, specifically for killing other humans efficiently. They practice combat as recreation, Vexter. They have entire sports dedicated to fighting. They create entertainment simulations of war and violence. This is a species that is comfortable with killing in a way most of us are not. Vexter studied the images and for the first time felt a flicker of doubt. It is too late to stop the challenge now. It has been formally declared and accepted. I know. I am simply suggesting that we should not assume the outcome. Thrin coiled tighter around himself, a sign of anxiety in his species. We may have underestimated them. One way or another, we will know tomorrow. In his quarters, Day One was not preparing with rituals or ceremonies. He was stretching. Simple exercises to keep his body loose and ready. He had removed his shirt, and the scars covering his torso were clearly visible. Burns and cuts and bullet wounds. The accumulated damage of years spent in combat zones. He rolled his shoulders and settled into a fighting stance. His movements were precise and economical. No wasted motion. No excessive flourish. Just pure function. Ambassador Hyjin watched from the doorway. "Are you ready?" "I am always ready," Day One replied. "That is the problem." "What do you mean?" "I mean that I never stopped being what I was, Hyjin. I just pretended for a while. I wore suits and used polite words and tried to convince myself I was different. But tomorrow, everyone will see the truth." "And what truth is that?" Day One stopped moving and looked at her with eyes that were cold and empty. "That I am very good at killing, and that some part of me never wanted to stop." The arena was circular and massive, easily 200 meters across. The floor was smooth metal that gleamed under bright overhead lights. Energy barriers hummed at the edges, tall enough that no one could escape, but transparent enough that the thousands of spectators could watch everything clearly. Those spectators filled tiered seating that rose up in rings around the combat space. Every seat was occupied. Species from across the galaxy had come to witness this. Above the arena, holographic projectors broadcast the event to billions more watching from their homeworlds. This was entertainment. This was a lesson about challenging the established order. This was going to be humanity's humiliation, broadcast across the stars. Kren entered first to cheering and applause from his supporters. He raised his bladed limbs in triumph before the fight had even begun. His black exoskeleton had been polished until it reflected the lights like a mirror. Each of his 6 limbs ended in sharp points that could pierce steel. He stood 3 meters tall and weighed nearly 400 kilograms of armored muscle. Day One entered to silence. He wore simple black pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. No shoes, no gloves, no armor or protection of any kind. He was smaller than almost every species in the arena. His skin looked pale and soft compared to Kren's armored carapace. He walked to the center of the arena floor with steady, measured steps. The 2 fighters faced each other across 10 meters of open space. An automated system spoke in a voice that echoed through the chamber. Trial by combat. Traditional rules. No weapons. No armor. No outside interference. Combat continues until submission, unconsciousness, or death. Do both parties agree to these terms? "I agree," Kren said loudly, playing to the crowd. "I agree," Day One said quietly. "Begin." Kren attacked immediately. He crossed the distance between them in 2 massive strides and swung one bladed limb at Day One's head. It was a strike designed to end the fight in seconds. A killing blow disguised as a warning. Day One moved. He did not block or dodge away. He moved forward and to the side, inside Kren's reach, where the longer limbs could not strike effectively. His hand caught Kren's limb at the joint and redirected it past his head. At the same time, Day One's other hand struck Kren's thorax with precise force. It looked like nothing. Just a quick jab. But Kren stumbled backwards, his breathing suddenly labored. The crowd murmured in confusion. What had just happened? Kren recovered and attacked again, this time with multiple limbs striking from different angles. He was faster now, not underestimating the human. But Day One was already moving, his body flowing around the attacks like water. Every motion was minimal and exact. He did not waste energy on dramatic movements or unnecessary defenses. Day One's hand shot out and struck a joint on one of Kren's limbs. There was a cracking sound. Kren screamed and pulled back. The limb hung at an odd angle, clearly damaged. The crowd was no longer murmuring. They were silent, watching with growing disbelief. Kren circled more cautiously now. He had 5 working limbs still, and his natural armor had protected him from the worst of Day One's strikes. But he was beginning to realize this human was not like anything he had fought before. There was no hesitation, no fear, just cold calculation. They clashed again, and this time the fight became brutal. Kren used his superior size and strength to grapple, trying to crush Day One against his armored body. But Day One twisted and struck at weak points with brutal efficiency. Another joint cracked, then another. Kren's bladed limbs cut into Day One's arms and chest, drawing blood. But the human barely seemed to notice. This was what 3 billion years of evolution had created. A creature that could ignore pain and injury. A creature designed for endurance. Humans had chased prey for days in the burning sun of their homeworld, running until the animal's heart gave out. A few cuts would not stop them. Day One broke another of Kren's limbs and then swept the Voss warrior's legs out from under him. Kren crashed to the ground with enough force to crack the metal floor. He tried to rise, but Day One was already there, striking vital points with precision that spoke of extensive anatomical knowledge. Kren was bleeding now. His own blood, dark green against his black armor. He tried to speak the words of submission. I yield. I submit. The combat is over. Day One did not stop. His face was spattered with both their blood, but his expression had not changed. He was calm, focused, efficient. You struck a diplomatic envoy, Day One said quietly as he systematically dismantled Kren's defense. By your own laws, that is a blood challenge. Not a ritual. Not a ceremony. A fight to the end. Terror filled Kren's compound eyes. This was not how combat challenges worked anymore. No one actually fought to death. It was civilized, controlled, but the human did not seem to understand civilization. Or perhaps he understood it too well and was using the old laws against them. Day One delivered a final strike to a nerve cluster at the base of Kren's skull. The Voss warrior went limp, unconscious but alive. Day One stood over him for a moment, breathing steadily despite the exertion and blood loss. Then he straightened and turned toward the viewing boxes where the council sat. The entire arena was silent. 50,000 beings watching without making a sound. On a million worlds, billions more watched through holographic displays. They had expected to see a human broken and humiliated. Instead, they saw something that would haunt their species' collective memory for generations. They saw a human covered in blood, his own and his enemies, standing calm and unbowed over a defeated warrior twice his size. They saw what humanity really was beneath the polite words and diplomatic smiles. They saw a predator. Day One walked toward the arena exit. His steps were steady despite his injuries. He picked up his jacket from where he had left it and draped it over one arm. Blood dripped onto the polished metal floor with each step, leaving a trail behind him. As he passed the viewing box where Council Prime Vexter sat, Day One looked up. He made eye contact with the reptilian leader. He did not speak. He did not need to. The message was clear in his eyes. Do not test us again. Vexter, who had ruled the council for 3 decades and seen countless warriors and conquerors, felt something he had not experienced in years. Fear, not of the individual human before him, but of what that human represented. If this was their diplomat, what were their actual soldiers like? Medical teams rushed to help Kren, carefully lifting his unconscious form onto a hovering stretcher. The damage was extensive, but not fatal. He would recover, though he would never forget the day a human half his size systematically destroyed him. Ambassador Hai-Jin was waiting at the arena entrance with Ji Woo and a medical team. Day One waved away the medics. I am fine. You are bleeding from at least 6 different wounds, Hai-Jin said. I am still fine. Day one looked back at the arena. Is it done? Do they understand now? I think the entire galaxy understands now. Haijin pulled up her data pad. We are receiving messages from 24 different council members. They want to meet with us. Immediately. Good. Day one allowed the medics to begin treating his wounds. Then we can begin actual negotiations. Are you in any condition to negotiate? Day one smiled. It was not the cold smile from before. It was tired and perhaps a little sad. I am a diplomat, Haijin. This is what I do. The fighting was just an unfortunate necessity. In the council chambers, emergency sessions were being called. Representatives who had dismissed humanity hours ago were now frantically reassessing their positions. Councillor Thrin had been right. They had underestimated the humans badly. We need to offer better terms, one councillor said urgently. If they join another alliance instead of us, we lose strategic advantage. Better terms? Another replied. They should be offering us terms. Did you see what that one human did? Imagine if they send their military next time. We attacked their diplomat. We drew first blood. By every legal standard, they would be justified in declaring war. War. Vexther's voice cut through the panic. You think they would declare war over one incident? I think, Councillor Thrin said carefully, that we should not assume anything about humans anymore. We thought they were weak. We were wrong. Perhaps we should find out what else we are wrong about before making more mistakes. The council chamber filled with the sound of worried voices. Species who had ruled the galaxy for millennia were suddenly uncertain. And in the medical bay, as Doctor sealed his wounds and replaced his lost blood, Day one closed his eyes and allowed himself a moment of rest. He had done what was necessary. He had shown strength when strength was required. But the cost of reverting to his old self, even temporarily, was higher than anyone could see. Some doors, once opened, were very difficult to close again. Tomorrow he would put on another suit and smile politely and use diplomatic words. But everyone who had watched the arena would remember. They would see the suit and smile and know what lay beneath. A human, a predator. A reminder that humanity had climbed to the top of their food chain by being better at killing than everything else on their planet. The emergency council session began 6 hours after the arena combat. Every representative was present, even those who had previously shown no interest in the human petition. The chamber that had been filled with laughter and mockery 2 days ago was now silent and tense. Day one entered with Ambassador Haijin and the rest of the human delegation. His wounds had been properly treated and sealed with advanced medical technology. He wore a fresh gray suit and walked without showing any sign of the previous day's violence. To look at him now, it was almost possible to forget what he had done. Almost. But every alien in the chamber remembered. This time, when the humans took their positions, there was no laughter. There were no mocking comments. Several council members actually stood when Day one entered, a sign of respect usually reserved for military heroes and visiting dignitaries of great importance. Council, Prime Vexther, called the session to order. His voice was carefully controlled, but those who knew him well could hear the uncertainty beneath. The Council has reviewed the events of the previous day. We have also received numerous communications from our respective governments regarding humanity's petition for membership. He paused and looked directly at Day one. The terms we previously offered were based on incomplete information about your species. We wish to renegotiate. We are willing to listen, Day one replied calmly. Before we begin, Councillor Thrin spoke up. I believe this council owes humanity an explanation. We underestimated you. We treated you with disrespect and arrogance. We assumed weakness where there was strength. For this, we apologize. The words hung in the air. Apologies were rare in council politics. They signified not just regret, but acknowledgement of superior position. "Your apology is accepted," Ambassador Hyjin said. "We understand that first impressions can be misleading." On both sides. Another council member, a floating entity that communicated through color changes, pulsed through several hues before speaking. "We have questions about your species, your history, your capabilities. We are happy to answer what we can," Day One said. "The individual who fought yesterday. You." The entity's colors shifted to shades of orange that indicated confusion. "You are listed as a diplomatic specialist, not a warrior. How is this possible? On Earth, many people serve in multiple capacities throughout their lives," Day One explained. "I was military before I became a diplomat. Many of our diplomatic corps have similar backgrounds. We believe that understanding conflict helps us prevent it." Military. Kren's voice came from the upper tier. He had recovered enough to attend, though several of his limbs were still in medical braces. "You were special forces. Elite units. I have reviewed your military classifications. What you did to me was not basic combat training." "No," Day One agreed. "It was not basic. How many of your soldiers have this level of training?" "That information is classified." Classified. Vexther leaned forward. "Let me be direct, Diplomat Day One. This council needs to understand what humanity represents. Are you exceptional among your kind, or are you typical?" Day One glanced at Hyjin, who nodded slightly. He turned back to the council. "I am not typical, but I am also not unique. Earth has thousands of soldiers with similar or superior training. Our species has been at war with itself for most of our recorded history. We have become very efficient at combat because our survival depended on it." "Your own species?" another counselor asked. "You fought each other?" "For resources, for territory, for ideologies and religions, and 1,000 other reasons." Day One pulled up holographic displays showing human history. Wars and battles stretching back millennia. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times. But we survived. And in surviving, we learned. The council watched in horrified fascination as the displays showed human weapons development. From stone axes to nuclear bombs in just 10,000 years. From individual combat to mechanized warfare. Every innovation designed to kill more efficiently. "This is disturbing," one counselor said quietly. "This is humanity," Ambassador Hyjin responded. "We do not deny our violent past, but we also do not apologize for surviving. Every species here had to overcome challenges to reach the stars. Ours simply came in a different form." A new voice joined the conversation. It came from the entrance to the chamber where a human had just arrived wearing a military uniform. Admiral Tae Yang, commander of Earth's defensive fleet. He had not been scheduled to attend, but his presence now made a statement. "I apologize for the interruption," Tae Yang said, not sounding apologetic at all. "But I felt the council should know that Earth's fleet is currently taking position around this station. Purely defensive positioning, of course. We want to ensure our diplomatic team's safety after yesterday's unfortunate incident." Vexther's scales darkened with barely concealed anger. "You bring warships to council space without permission?" "We bring protection for our people," Tae Yang replied calmly. "Surely the council understands the need for security after one of our diplomats was violently assaulted at what was supposed to be a peaceful reception. The implications were clear. Humanity was not asking for permission anymore. They were announcing their presence and daring the council to object. How many ships?" Vexther asked quietly. "Enough." Tae Yang smiled. "Would the council like detailed specifications? Hull classifications? Weapon systems?" "That will not be necessary." Vexther exchanged glances with other council members. A quick vote was taken through their private communication channels. The Council recognizes humanity's right to protect its diplomatic mission. Your fleet may remain in a defensive position. Generous of you, Taiyang said dryly. He nodded to Ambassador Haijin and left the chamber. His point made, the balance of power had shifted dramatically in just 2 days. The species that had been mocked and dismissed now commanded respect through demonstrated capability. The Council was learning a lesson that humans had taught each other countless times throughout history. Peace through strength. Let us discuss new terms, Baxter said. The Council is prepared to offer full membership status immediately. No probationary period. Full voting rights. Territorial claims will be recognized for all human explored systems. No tribute will be required. We also wish to propose a mutual defense treaty, Councillor Thrin added. Several Council members have expressed interest in formal alliances with humanity. Ambassador Haijin nodded slowly. These terms are more acceptable. However, we have a condition of our own, which is the incident with Councillor Kren. We are willing to consider it resolved and forgiven. But any future violence against human diplomats will be treated as an act of war. Not a challenge. Not a cultural misunderstanding. War. Is this understood? The chamber was silent. It was an aggressive stance, especially for a species so new to galactic politics. But after what they had witnessed, no one was willing to test humanity's resolve. Understood, Vexler said finally. The Council agrees to these terms. Over the next 3 hours, the details were formalized. Treaties were drafted and signed. Humanity was officially welcomed into the Galactic Council as a full member with all rights and privileges. It was a diplomatic victory that exceeded all of Earth's expectations. When the session ended, Day 1 remained behind as the others filed out. Councillor Thrin approached him carefully. You knew this would happen, the Serpentine Councillor said. The challenge. The combat. All of it? You planned for this outcome. I planned for multiple outcomes, Day 1 replied. This was simply the most direct path. You allowed yourself to be provoked. You let Kren attack you so you could respond within our own legal framework. You manipulated the entire situation. I responded to a threat using available methods, Day 1 said carefully. Nothing more. You are a dangerous individual. Day 1 of Earth, I am glad you are on our side now. So am I, Day 1 said quietly. He looked around the empty chamber. So am I. Later, in the human quarters, Ambassador Haijin found Day 1 packing his personal belongings. Going somewhere? Home, Day 1 said. My part in this is done. Earth is sending a new diplomatic team. Specialists who actually enjoy this kind of work. And you do not? I did what was necessary. But I do not want to be that person anymore. He closed his bag and turned to face her. Every time I use violence, even justified violence, it becomes easier to use it again. I do not want it to become easy. The galaxy will remember what you did here. Good. Maybe that memory will prevent future conflicts. Day 1 moved toward the door, but paused. Tell the new team something for me. Tell them to be polite. To be professional. To use diplomacy whenever possible. And if diplomacy fails? Day 1 smiled slightly. Tell them to remember that they are human. That has become a meaningful statement now. He left the quarters and made his way to the docking area, where a transport waited to take him back to Earth. A young woman was waiting there, looking nervous. She wore a diplomat suit and carried official credentials. Day 1, sir? She said hesitantly. I am B.O. Ra. I am your replacement. I hope so. Everyone is talking about what you did, how you handled Kren. I do not know if I could do something like that. Hopefully you will never have to. Day 1 handed her a data chip. This contains everything I have learned about the Council species. Study it Know who you are dealing with. Knowledge is the best defense.